a very liberal columnist named Scott Lehigh, who writes for, and I think is on the editorial board also, of the very, very, very liberal newspaper, the Boston Globe, my hometown newspaper, had a column today that was really quite hysterical, although it was not his intent to write a funny column. His column was lamenting the fact that Donald Trump's poll numbers are high and rising still, and Mr. Lehigh just couldn't understand. He was just totally perplexed. How could this possibly be? And then to underscore how perplexed he is, uh, Scott Lehigh devotes almost his entire column to recounting all of the reasons why people should never in a million years want to vote for Donald Trump. And we're all familiar with those reasons: the sexual harassment, the financial wheelings and dealings, the stupidities, the blunders, the this, the that. Of course, the list goes on and on and on. Um, and then the columnist ends with the sad note that this really shows the state of the nation. And I couldn't help laughing, because what it really shows is the state of the nation's contempt for the liberal ruling elite, which is, of course, the main reason that people vote for Trump, because he at least purports to be, condemning this ruling elite. People like epitomized, of course, by Hillary Clinton and Obama and Robert Reich, and the list goes on. These are the liberal elitists that people know are the buddies of the super rich, the Goldman Sachs crowd, and these are the people that wanted to go to war against Russia for no good reason, and Donald Trump's opposition to going to war against Russia was the main reason that he rose from just one of about 12 or more Republican politicians aiming to get the Republican nomination, to being the leading one and actually getting it. That's what lifted him above the crowd, as he was the only one in that first primary debate who said he said, "I'll get along fine with Putin." The others were all bragging about how they were going to be more hostile than ever to Putin, and implying that they would use any excuse to start a World War III against Russia. So, basically, Donald Trump was the anti-war candidate, and he was the anti-establishment candidate. And no matter what he did in terms of personal bad behavior, uh, people wanted to stick it to the Hillary Clinton crowd, and they still want to stick it to the whoever is going to represent the liberal elite uh, gang. And that's why a lot of people are going to vote for Trump no matter what he does. That's why he was able to say he could shoot someone in Times Square and still get elected. He understood the basis for his support. Now here's the my opinion, the moral of this story. We can build an egalitarian revolutionary movement that aims explicitly for removing the rich from power, to have real, not fake democracy with no rich and no poor, because most Americans want that very much. And when I say most Americans, I'm including the hardcore pro-Trump voters. And my basis for making this claim is that in 2016, in July, during the peak of the campaigning of that election, uh, I went to what was essentially a pro-Trump rally in Boston. It was called by the Gun Owners Action League, which is the sort of the state version of the National Rifle Association, and it was called to have a rally in protest of the Attorney General's recent declaration that she was going to prohibit the purchase of certain types of guns. And so I went to this rally. It was in front of the State House in Boston, and I wanted to see how would people react to the message on my button that says let's remove the rich from power to have real, not fake democracy with no rich and no poor. So I went to the rally. I had a T-shirt with that same message from the button blown up big on a T-shirt. I had buttons to give to people, and I got to the rally, and I saw 3 or 4, maybe more hundred people listening to the speeches being given on the steps of the State House, and they were all white people. Many of them were holding, waving little American flags. Many of them had T-shirts and stuff that said NRA on them, and lots of them, almost all of them, were wearing the Trump red "Make America Great" cap. So I tapped people randomly on the shoulder because they were approached from the rear of the rally, and people were facing away from me listening to the speeches. So I tapped people randomly on the shoulder, and I asked them, I showed them the "Let's remove the rich from power, have real not fake democracy with no rich and no poor" message, and I said, do you think that's a good idea or a bad idea? I asked 50 people that question. 43 of them, 86%, said it was a good idea. Some said it was a great idea. All of those 43 people gladly took the button when I offered it to them, and many of them pinned it on their shirt right on the spot. And one woman was so happy that I made the button that she insisted she offered me one of her bottles of cold water that she had taken to the rally because it was such a hot day. I can't remember if I took it or not. The point is that here I went to this, totally pro-Trump rally, and I got an extremely positive response to the egalitarian revolutionary idea. 86%. Now, 4 people were verbally hostile, and 3 didn't know what they thought. So what that means is that the great majority of the pro-Trump crowd would be eager to see an egalitarian revolution in this country and would join a movement if they knew that one existed, which of course today they don't, because who's going around saying let's remove the rich from power, have real not fake democracy with no rich and no poor? I'm doing it, and people I can persuade to do it, which is still a small number, unfortunately. Hope that'll change before long. But none of the politicians come even close to that. Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, they don't even hint at having no rich and no poor. They just want to have the billionaires be taxed a little bit more, which the billionaires are perfectly happy to do, knowing that will keep them in absolute power, and their dictatorship of the rich will be absolutely as strong, no matter how the tax code is altered as ever. And of course, Donald Trump, he made some noises about being against the rich, and even though he was one himself, he acted like he was going to go against the rich, and that was the basis for a lot of his support. Of course, it was a lie. His tax code has only helped the rich and so forth, and but a lot of people will keep voting for him just because he's a symbol of opposition to the ruling elite, even if he's only a symbol and there's hardly any substance to him. People say, well, hey, at least it's a symbol. It's our way of giving the finger to the rich and powerful, So I say, let's give people a real way to express what they really want. Let's create a movement that really aims explicitly for the egalitarian revolutionary goal that most people want. Well, I'll post some links about how I'm doing that and how you can do it too. So I hope you'll look at them, and please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thank you.